Okay, so let's learn to play these scales, the white key starting minor scales on the keyboard. So we're going to start with A minor, the easiest one. A minor, no sharps, no flats. So it's really just these notes, right? Except remember that if you, as you are going, and this will be the same fingering as your C major scale, but you're just starting on A, I want you to be singing or keeping track of what solfege you are currently on, so that by the time you get to T, you know that that note you will have to raise a half step. So, for example, do, re, mi, tuck, fa, sol, la. Now, normally the key signature will have you play the G, but we're doing harmonic minor, so this is le. You're going to have to raise the G up a half step. Ti, do, ti, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So remember that. These are the notes for the natural minor. You will have to raise the seventh note there. So always know the note that's affected in the harmonic minor, having to raise the seventh note, the seventh scale degree, that note will not appear in the key signature. That'll be separate. That'll always be written as an accidental in the music. All right, so that's an easy one. Let's go to 1 sharp, which is E minor. Now remember, the two white key starting minor scales that are 1 sharp and 2 sharp that you have to learn in this batch. Both times you're going to use your second finger only, okay? So notice, if you go right to E, your second note, there it is, because the relative of G major is this, right? 1 sharp on F sharp. It's exactly the same. Of course, if you go, I'm not sure if the keyboard goes all the way down here. I'm going to go from here to here. The relative of G major is E minor, and it still has to keep the same sharp, which is F sharp. So notice where it appears in the scale if you start from E. It's a second note. If you use the fingering, starting from E, it'll be your second finger. Just know that not every second finger will be a sharp, because once you tuck, then your rest of the notes are going to be white. So that's E minor, right? This right now is natural minor. So again, as always, every time you play a scale, sing with solfege so that you know that once you play le, the next note, you will have to add an accidental so that it is raised a half step. So where is it going to be? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, le. There it is, le. There's your te. You will have to raise a half step so that it falls a half step below your tonic, right? So you're going to end up, for E harmonic minor, having to play 2 sharps. Remember again, the key signature only has the F sharp. You will have to add a sharp to the D as an accidental. Here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And as a side note, as a pianist, I kind of want to make a note to, when you're playing white keys, try not to just play them all out here, because when you have to play a black key, you have to stretch out for it, right? Which is kind of awkward like this. So I suggest you just move up everything about here so everything's a little bit easier to access, right? And you could continue to keep all your fingers curved, which is always what you want. You want your hand shape to always be as close to this as possible. Of course, sometimes there'll be a little bit of extension, but you don't want to ever have to totally straighten out like this or have to move your hand over like this so you could accommodate for a black key. All right, so if you need more practice, just rewind, replay the video, or go back a little bit so you could practice those 2 scales. And then your other sharp scale is 2 sharps, which is B minor. And again, it's still fingering number 2. Now that you have 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp, they're both going to be played with your second finger. So that makes it really easy. Start on B, go to B. And every time you play a second finger, you need to play a sharp. So again, try not to play here. Move it a little bit up like this so everything can be curved. Every time your second finger plays, you must play a sharp. So it's this C sharp and F sharp, second fingers. Here we go. Always sing. re, mi, fa, sol, la. Now remember, you should be singing that la. The next note is te. You're going to have to raise it. So the A would become an A sharp. So you're adding a third sharp here in the scale. Ti, do, ti, re, sol, fa, mi, re, do. These are the two sharps that belong in the key signature. This sharp is added to accommodate for adding the leading tone, right? So it falls a half step below. So again. All right, so those are your sharp scales. So we've taken care of 3 so far: A minor, E minor, B minor. So let's go to the flat side now. There are 4 flat minor scales to take care of that start with white keys. So the first one is D minor. And remember, for the flat scales, it's your middle finger that will end up playing your flats, your black keys. So that's nice and easy to remember. There's only one flat in D minor, and what was a flat? B flat. So notice when you first start with D, your third finger is F, so that's just a white key. It's when you tuck and then restart a 5-finger position, there is your flat, right? And notice again, I'm playing further up here and not here, and straightening out. Move everything up a little bit. So that's the only flat. And then of course you got to accommodate for the T. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. This is the la. Your next note should be C, but you need to raise it. So you have this. So it's kind of fun because you have this kind of a fingering. You have 2 adjacent black keys, but they're far apart and they're with your 3rd and 4th finger. Okay, you ready? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So replay that portion as many times as needed to make sure you have that down. 2 flats, G minor. There are 2 flats, and so all the flats are played with your middle finger. So every time you play your 3rd finger, those should be on the flats. If you start with G, it is here. There's your B flat, and then you tuck to C, and then again 3rd finger, there's your E flat. So your 2 flats in the key signature are B flat and E flat. But again, we just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 notes. That will land me on le. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. And then again, your te would have been F. You have to raise it. So the top half of G minor is going to look and feel just like the top half of the D minor you just did. 2 consecutive black keys, but spread far apart and placed with a 3rd and 4th finger. Yeah, so 3 black keys. You have a B flat, 3rd finger, tuck. You have an E flat, 3rd finger. And then you will have to add an F sharp. Don't think it's strange because you got flat in the keys and then you have a sharp appear. I've always kind of stressed you can't mix sharps and flats in a scale. That's what I'm talking about, just the notes that belong in the major scale or the natural minor scale. The notes that are in the key signature. The key signature should not mix sharps and flats. But in harmonic minor, it is always added as an accidental in the music, so it's perfectly fine. Okay, so let's play it. Here we go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Next is C minor. C minor. This actually, so there's 3 flats in C minor. And as you hopefully figured out by now, you're only going to play the 3rd finger twice, but there's 3 flats. So let's figure out what that means. There's your first one, the E flat. Once you tuck to F, you play this again. Yeah, so it's still 3rd fingers on both. And then your last flat is actually going to be here. So if you're playing a natural minor scale, those are the 3 flats. Yeah? So it's easy to remember because the 3rd finger always starts the flats. There's a 3rd finger alone And then once you tuck, the third finger initiates the next group of black keys, of flat keys. And then you got this. However, remember we're doing harmonic minor. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, le. This is your te. You're going to have to raise it a half step. So you're going to have to go here, ti, do. So in the end, you end up only having to play 2 flatted notes because the last one becomes a natural. So just E flat, third finger, and A flat, third finger. And then you have, again, a gap on these 2 fingers, but not both black keys. It's an A flat, and then you got to play here, B. Let's do it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Finally, F minor. I didn't give a detail of F minor on the previous one where I was writing everything down on the white paper because this one's, I want you to learn it differently. So remember, this is, fingering wise, it's going to be similar to F major. Do you remember F major? We had, right? The fingering was different because if you tucked on the third finger, you would have had to place your thumb on a black key, which is really awkward. So instead of having the math 3 plus 5, we are ending up doing 4 and then tucking after the fourth finger and then finishing with a 4 and never using the pinky because it's going to be 4 plus 4. So that's going to stay the same. So what I'm going to do is some teachers, some theory books like to separate the scales into 2 what they call tetrachords. Tetrachords are just basically made up of 4 notes. So the first 4 notes of the scale and the last 4 notes of the scale at the top, which was a good thing to do for F major or minor because the fingering is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to try to drill and help you memorize. Just memorize the pattern of your white keys and flat keys in each tetrachord. So the first one, this is your F major, right? And if you remember, the only note between do, re, mi, fa that will change in a minor, 2 minor will be do, re, mi. So that's it. So the first tetrachord pattern will be white, white, flat, flat. Okay, so remember that. Do, re, mi, fa. And then, if we were to do natural minor, of course you would tuck to C. And then we've only done 2 flats so far. And remember, F minor is related to A flat major, which has 4 flats. Anything that has 4 sharps or 4 flats, the black keys are always paired together. So you had 2 right there. Your next 2 are right here. So this would be the upper tetrachord pattern for F natural minor. White, flat, flat, white. So try to remember that. I know we're not going to be playing natural minor, but I think this is the best way to kind of remember it. And then you just will raise it when it comes to that point. So it's white, white, flat, flat, and then white, flat, flat, white. I suggest at the keyboard you just keep doing this so you memorize how to sort of position your fingers. Whenever I anticipate moving to the bottom tetrachord, I just know to kind of bring these 2 fingers together because it's so close together, right? It's not here, equidistant. I'm going to have to do this. And then when I do the upper tetrachord, I will bring the 1 and 2 fingers close together because you have that half step right there. Here, white, white, flat, flat. Upper tetrachord pattern is white, flat, flat, white. So keep doing that. White, white, flat, flat. White, flat, flat, white. This will really help also if you are asked to draw out the F minor scale. You just remember the pattern. Oh, I remember it's white, white, flat, flat, and then white, flat, flat, white. You'll know where to place your flat notes. All right, so the only difference is when you're going to be tested on playing it, as you sing it, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Remember that this is te. You're going to have to raise it to here. If you haven't noticed already, the last 4 notes of every harmonic minor scale is made up of 2 separate half steps, right? Sol, le, half steps, and then a big gap here, isn't it? And then ti, do. So between the sol and the do, it's a half step inside each of them. Sol, le, ti, do. Or let's try it. So again, it's white, white, flat, flat. And then the pattern should be white, flat, flat, white. But this is the te, you're going to raise it to here. So the only finger that will play a flat is the second finger. So now you see why I didn't include the F minor when I was showing it to you on paper, because this doesn't follow the other fingerings. Okay, let's try it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, le, ti, do, ti, le, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Excellent. So keep replaying this video, watching it over and over until every scale is clear, and you could jump back from all of these random sevens, white key starting scales, and you can keep track. If you want to drill them, maybe just pick a 2 or 3 at a time and just drill those only until you have it, because you might get overwhelmed if you're trying to memorize all 7 at the same time. All right, good luck, guys.